Welcome back to season 2 of the hit show From Idea to Impact. I'm your host, Quentin McDougald, CEO and founder of Nothing But Web and the Nothing But Web Entrepreneur Network. For those of you watching, I had millions of people, I know, maybe not millions, but thousands of people hit me up. Hey, when you're bringing the show back, when is it coming? There's checking the website every Wednesday. And guess what? We're back now. This week's guest is a special guest. Now, I know I said all guests are special, but they're all special to me because I know them personally, and I don't just bring anybody onto this show. Our guest tonight is Lee Williams, CEO and founder of Elite Yardworx. Lee, wave to the people. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Listen, I appreciate you taking the time. So for those that don't know Lee, every single lawn you passed in the area that we live in, Lee's probably did it. Now, Lee's a humble guy, but I'm 99% of the time, Lee has done it. I watched this brother build his empire literally brick by brick. He'll get into that today on tonight's episode. I remember when he was at CarMax, and I think he'll talk about that a little bit. I remember he decided to quit and go all in. I remember he had the 1 lawnmower, then he moved to 2, and then he celebrated with a brand new lawnmower. So he's definitely going to share his story and his journey in the landscaping business. Lee, before we get started, not only do I know you on a personal level, but you and I, we get into a lot together. So Lee and I, we've coached youth basketball. Both of our sons play basketball together. We came up with this crazy idea, which we'll talk about later, about starting a run club and running. And I think he did 10 miles yesterday. And I convinced him and twisted his arm to join in me and running in a Harvard Marathon this year. So we'll get all of that today. But before we get started, Lee, tell us a little about Elite Yardworx.
Man, that's a beautiful intro. Thank you. Elite Yardworx is a landscape maintenance business based out of Bloomfield, Connecticut. We service Bloomfield in the surrounding areas. I like to tell people we're a 4-season solution. So from snow to your spring and summer lawn maintenance down to fall leaf cleanups, back around the snow, we can take care of you. So there's a plethora of services that we offer. And just like you said, brick by brick, I'm just trying to build this thing and see where I can take it. So,
listen, and you're definitely taking it to the moon because I know a little bit behind the scenes. I know that you tell me on the side that, and a lot of people are always hitting you up. Hey, I know somebody to do lawn care because I told you, like I started, 99% of the lawns that you see in this area, Lee did it. Let's get into it. What inspired you to start Elite Yardworx?
That's a great question. Like you alluded to in the intro, I had a job. I had a great job. I was with the company for about 12 years. Started out as like an entry-level detailer and have worked my way up to mid-level management. And it was really my ceiling. That was as high as it was going to go. High as it was going to go for me there. I just, I spent a lot of time just being uninspired, doing monotonous, the mundane tasks day to day. I was cutting lawns on the side, and it just started to grow. It went from 2 lawns after work to, maybe 10 lawns for the week. And then it jumps up, a neighbor comes out or somebody calls and make a social post and now somebody's calling me. So, you go from maybe 2 yards after work to now you have a full schedule. And, you know what comes with the working. You're working too much here. You're doing too much here. The job is demanding certain things. Your business demands certain things. And it just reached the point where I had to make a decision. And last week, I believe it was last week, celebrated 6 years. 6 years being a full-time entrepreneur. So that
6 years. Wow. Okay.
From that scary moment of handing in my 2-week notice to celebrating 6 years. So that was an amazing feeling. I actually still have my original 2-week notice because I printed it out. I was bringing it into work and it was in my back pocket of my khakis and I just couldn't do it. I was too scared. I couldn't hand it in. And it was a phone call from my mother. She calls me later that day. She's like, "Hey, how did it go?" And I'm like, "No, I couldn't do it." Scared? I'm like, absolutely, I'm scared. Like, this is how I take care of my family, And so I still have the original. I had to change the date and hand in another one. but it was probably one of the best decisions I made in my life.
Now, 6 years, that is quite an accomplishment. Those of you that are entrepreneurs, I think there's some statistic that rolls around and says, after the first 3 years, a business fails. So for you to stick it out 6 years is amazing, especially with lawn care, because you see a lot of people cutting yards on the side, but you took the plunge and did it. And I definitely salute you for that, man, because it takes bravery to do that, because you have kids like I have kids, we're married, and it's when we go home and we decide, hey, listen, I think this is going to be the day. And then
$2 they need to eat. So yeah, it was like I said, one of that leap. Everybody talks about the leap, the proverbial leap, but it was one of the best decisions I made. So.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So starting the lawn care business, as we said, from the ground up, 1 lawn to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and so on and so forth. What's one of the biggest challenges that you had so far starting your business?
For me, it was, I'm a nice guy, man. It's turning people down. Sometimes we just turning people down. There's only so many hours in a day. And I like things to be planned, scheduled. I like people to know when I'm coming. I don't like too many surprises. So I think for me, it's just having a discipline to know that I'm at capacity, when I'm at capacity. And I think another part of it was financing. I spent a lot of time. So this is year 6. This is the first year I've actually financed equipment. So for 5 years, anything you've ever seen me use, driving, like anything you've seen me using for business, I bootstrapped it. And that gets tough, man. That gets tough. Something breaks, you're fixing it out of pocket. You need to buy something new, you're buying it out of pocket. So I made a conscious effort this year to change that. I bought a mower. I bought a brand new mower. It's the first time I bought a brand new mower. But I was able to finance it, and it's like such a huge burden off me, knowing that every time I start it, it's going to start. I'm not going to have certain issues with it, like the stuff that I have that might have been aging. So I think financing, and then just not, as my wife would say, not being greedy, not taking too much on.
No, that's important, because I think, and we have a question about the quality of service that you always deliver to people. A lot of people choose quantity over quality. And what that means is that a lot of people, they decide, they'll take whatever job that comes along, and then they just burn themselves out. And this probably leads to that first 3-year burnout, because people don't realize that, hey, it's going to take time. And as an entrepreneur, we know when we're out there working doing our businesses, that's time away from family. That's time away from your personal time. And you're at the cater to everybody. So I definitely applaud you for that. Elite Yardworx is known for quality and professionalism. What practices do you do to ensure that every single client has that professionalism that you display?
I have a standard, man. There's certain things that I see from other companies that I'm not okay with. There's certain things that I've just learned along the way that I've put into practice in my own business. But there's just a certain pride that I take in my work. There's a certain standard that I have whenever I leave the property. And I just try to I do the mom test, man. I try to treat every client like they're my mother. How would I want someone to treat my mother? Would I want my mom's lawn to look this way? And I think if you do the mom test, if you love your mom, 10 times out of 10, you're going to do a good job before you leave that property. So I think it's just all about having a certain level of pride, educating yourself, whether it's a new technique, new tools, things that make you more efficient, and just staying on top of those things. Like a couple of weeks ago, I purchased it's like a handle that goes on my trimmer, so I'm not hunched over all day. I'm standing up. Small things like that impact your quality at the end of the day because your back doesn't hurt. So it's those small little tweaks, man, that I think separate you from the rest of the pack. So.
Listen, perfection. We're not perfect when we're doing this. We learn as we go along, but like you said something very important. You surveyed the landscape, quote unquote landscaper. I'm not a rapper. I'm not a rapper, but I'll play one on TV. But it's very important because I know myself, when I started my business, I made sure I took a look at what everybody was doing, pros and cons, what they did, and figured out my own niche and kind of get in the way. So get in there the right way. So, definitely, I'm very familiar with that process. Very familiar with that process. You started in 2019, as we said, 6 years ago. What's one of your proudest accomplishments so far with your business?
Um,
There could be more than one.
Honestly, so like one of the most recent ones, it wasn't really with the business, but we had sponsored an event, and the event had a radio ad. I didn't know about the radio ad. Somebody called me and told me they heard about the radio ad. So I don't listen to the radio much, but because I knew it was circulating, I'm like, let me turn the radio. So I was driving my sons to get a haircut, and sitting in the car, and the ad comes. And my oldest son is the hardest person to impress. Like I spend a lot of time like just trying to impress my oldest son. Like right? so
Same here.
not a lot of time, but when I can get that win, it's a good day. So the ad comes on and it said sponsored by Elite Yardworx, and I kind of look over at him. He looks over at me. He's got that smile on his face, and I'm like, yes, I got him. I got him. That was definitely a proud moment for me because it just shows my kids, man. Like when I leave the house and I'm not out here just I'm not BSing around. Pops is doing something, and maybe they'll want to take it one day, maybe they don't. I don't know, but I'm doing something. I'm doing a good job, and it means something. It's like this name means something.
Listen, I think that's the hardest thing, especially we both have two kids. You touched on it. We spend the most time possible just to get that cool factor with the oldest. The youngest gonna love us no matter what. They root, they're there, yeah. The oldest, they're like, yeah, okay, all right,
Yeah.
whatever. You have a business, who cares? All right. Can I get more V-Bucks?
And I think because he's older, he's seen me in it a lot longer. He just thinks it's normal. Like he thinks some of these things are normal. I'm trying to think what another one would be. We did a project last year where we actually helped the daycare who the daycare owner had purchased property and the kids never had a playground. And we were actually able to help with the prep work to get the playground installed. And that was just cool, man, just to ride by there one day and see kids playing outside on the playground and just knowing for like years and years, like your hands had something to do with that. That was definitely a proud moment. I think those are like the two most recent. So I think hitting that 1 year mark for me was important because that made me proud just because there was so uncertainty for me when I left. Like when I tell you I left a good job, though, I left a good job. So to go cut grass. So it was making it to that first year was I might have cried that day. I might have cried that day. So
it's worth it, man. Again, not many people take that leap and that plunge. And, when we go from whether it's weekly or bi-weekly and you get that check coming in and you're like, yeah, okay. All right. I got that safety net. And then you just dove and it's like, all right, well, this week it may be some money, next week maybe. And then, it's ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. There's all the lessons that we learn. But speaking of lessons, what's one lesson that you learned about entrepreneurship that you wish you had known when you first started this journey?
I know you have to take care of yourself, man. Mentally, physically, you have to be well. I think especially in entrepreneurship, we tie the word entrepreneurship to the word hustle, right? And hustle is I'm just gonna go, and that's no good. Like I learned around year 4, year 5, like that's no good. You burn out, you crash and burn out, and you have to take time for yourself. You talked about it a couple times. It's the hats that we wear, right? We own businesses, we're fathers. We have things we're going to do outside of our businesses. You have to make time to do those things. You're a husband. You have to make time to work and build all those relationships, spending time with your children. Because the money won't matter at the end of the day. The money doesn't mean anything if you're not here or you're not healthy to spend it. Like you said, I ran 10 miles yesterday. You think my kids care? No. You know what happened when I came home? I got home, I stretched, I drank some water. My son looks at me and says, "Let's go outside and play basketball."
And we got to do it.
And that's what I mean about, taking care of yourself physically and mentally is like, I have to have the energy to go out there and do that now. I can't be like, nah, man, I just ran 10 miles. He doesn't care. And it's okay. It's not his job to care, right? It's my job to go out and hang out with my son. So I think that's the biggest lesson, man. Take care of yourself. Whatever that means for you, that could mean jumping on the treadmill, walking every morning. That could mean meditating. That could mean yoga, that could mean vacationing, whatever that means for you. You have to take care of yourself and make sure you're whole so that you can get back to the business.
So what's one or two secrets that you use? What do you do to take care of yourself?
So for like the last year, I've been more like the most consistent I've been in the gym in my life. I'm probably down like 45 pounds. That's one thing. More recently, I picked up running. That's been super cool, man. Just getting out, running with different people, challenging myself mentally and physically. If you told me 6 months ago that I would have run 10 miles yesterday, I'd be like, get out of here, If you told me I'd be running a Hartford half in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, I'd be like, you're crazy. But it's those small things, not small things, but it's those things that when you challenge yourself personally, it bleeds into the business, and to me, it makes you a better entrepreneur, a better business owner. So
that's true. That's true. So you're at year 6, and every year you make goals. What's next? What's your big goal for, let's say, 2025 with Elite Yardworx?
So I honestly, and I've been toying with it for like 2 years. I really want to get into some content. I see a lot of guys, and we call it the green industry. In the green industry, and they're doing content. A lot of them are old. They don't look like us. It's boring. And I think, again, that's one way to maybe drive myself to my target audience, but also maybe work on some brand deals and partnerships. Again, I see a lot of the bigger companies, they do sponsor people, and they do things. They're sending out free tools, free equipment. But people that look like us aren't getting those tools and equipment. They aren't getting those sponsorships. So, what if I could inject my personality a little bit on the camera, do some content, which is, content is king. Everybody's has to have some form of content right now. And just seeing what I could do with that. I think also for me, it's just more trying to drive into like my target audience. I don't think it's full of clients that are within my target audience, and that may be location, that may be property size, or like what I'm billing or whatever. So just getting more clients into that target area.
Listen, that makes sense, because it's just saying every client is not your client. Every client is not your client. You may have some people that have been with you for years, but then you realize that you look at the relationship you have with that particular client, and it's like, if it's more stressed on you than necessary, sometimes, you gotta let them go. And like you said, find your target client.
About a year ago, and again, like I said, it was a point where I was a little stressed out, and I'm like, hold on, this is my business. I make the rules, right? And I kind of went through, and there was some people that couldn't stay on the boat, and it's, had the conversation very professionally with them. But sometimes entrepreneurs, you have that ability to fire a client, especially if it's not a relationship that's working out for you. Don't be afraid to say, hey, this isn't working for me, and here's the reason why. And they'll either change or they change.
Listen, that's very important to all entrepreneurs out there. Be okay with firing a client. Be okay with it, because sometimes I've experienced it talking to other entrepreneurs on this particular show. You hit that point where you hit the stress, and then it's like one client, and that particular client, like every single time you talk to them, is just like stress. And then you get that realization, like, wait, I don't have to deal with this stress. This is my business.
Yeah, exactly.
This is mine. You know what? I'm not coming next week or the week after that. You know that.
Had it where I've had people who they've come back. You know, they go out, they try other services, and they're like, "I'm sorry, man. Like, can you take me back?" Again, I think it's all in the way you deliver that message. You know, you don't just stop showing up for them. I think it's all in the way you deliver that message. Understanding that people are people too. You put them through the mom test, right? You wouldn't want somebody to just tell your mom like, "I'm not coming back," or "Don't show up," or it's a simple phone call or a conversation and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. I have to move on. I have to move. I have to move on and you go about your life." And sometimes they come back. Sometimes things change and they come back. So
very important. Very important. So those are great goals for 2025 for the business. But I'm gonna stretch your brain a little bit. So with Elite Yardworx, what is one of your big goals for the future to make an impact in the community?
I think it's just finding things that align. Right? Like you talked about earlier, you and I, we coach a youth basketball team in the wintertime. So that's something that aligns, right? I got a lot of free time in the wintertime. My son likes to play basketball. I get to hang out with you. Your son plays basketball. I enjoy basketball. I think it's just finding things that align with my core values. Finding people who maybe doing something already. I'm not one of those people that's going to plan and do a whole bunch of stuff, but I love when I can lend my support, whether it's my time, whether it's financially, whether it's through my network, and help boost or improve what somebody else is already doing. So I think we do a really good job of it now, but it's just again finding those opportunities that just align with my core values and things that I want to see. So I think anytime there's something to do with me, since I have children, and something to do with like sports, things that I enjoy, it makes it a lot easier.
Listen, that's important, man. They say the youth are the future, but you know, it's always great. Like you said, you mentioned earlier, just driving by that playground and just knowing that you had a part of that, and that will last forever. So those are the special moments. But Lee, we reached that point. It's almost time to wrap. You know, before we go, those that watch the show, we have our perfect segment at the end where I'm going to ask you, as our special guest this week, what's one word, one phrase, one slogan that you want to leave the viewers with? Because people watch it live, people watch the playbacks. What's one phrase or saying that you want to leave them with, so that if they're stuck and they're figuring out maybe I need to take the leap, or maybe they might want to get into landscaping, what would be something you want to leave them with tonight?
The one word, man, is marathon. That's it. It's when you start that marathon, you understand it's not going to be easy thing, right? People are going to pass you. You're going to pass other people. None of it matters because you're just going to run your race. And it's no different with your business, right? There are people that I've seen come into business after me that are doing great things. People that I've watched go out of business since I've come in. None of it matters, right? Absolutely none of it matters. What matters is doing what I want to do in the way that I want to do it. And just understand that it's not easy. Sometimes it's going to be much better than others. Sometimes it's going to be harder than others. But if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other one, you're going to hit the goal line. That sounds cheesy. It sounds cliche, but I swear to you, that's just how it works, man. That's how it works.
The marathon, you know, that sums it up, because, you know, like you said, it's a journey, like different steps. There's ups, there's downs. There's moments when you want to be like, you know what, that's it. And then there's moments that, like you just explained, where there's proud moments that you have. And speaking of marathon, I will see you at the Hartford Marathon. Lee and I are both decided that we're going to get in this Hartford Marathon. We've been running partners for a while, running around the town in different locations with other people. So I commend you on that journey, and good luck on that, because I'll see you there.
Yes, yes. I'll see. Catch me at the finish line, okay? Well, just pull me over. You're gonna be there already. Just drag me across.
Listen, like you just said, it doesn't matter what, for those of you watching, we're just doing it to do it. That's part of the entrepreneur life. We always look for different challenges to do. We're not trying to get first and second place, anything like that. The goal is to finish. Just like when you have a business and you have your ideas, no matter where you start, just finish. That's the key point. Lee, before we go, tell everybody your socials, where they can find you, how can they book you, website, everything. I'm gonna pop it right on the screen, make it look magical.
Yeah, website www.eliteyardworx.com with an X. Facebook and Instagram, same thing. Elite Yardworx with an X. And that's it.
That's it. Lee, anything you want to leave the crowd with, the viewers with before we wrap?
Oh man, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Listen, once again, I'm your host, Quentin McDougald, CEO and founder of Nothing But Web, and the founder of the Nothing But Web Entrepreneur Network. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're not involved in joining a network yet, what are you waiting for? You see great shows like this. You get to network with different people. We even have events coming up next beginning of the year. So with that being said, this is From Idea to Impact. Lee, thank you for being my guest tonight. Welcome to season 2, everybody. As you can see, we changed the scenery up a little bit. Stay tuned. Every Wednesday, we got a new show. Have a great night.